Hello and welcome to the Product Marketing Festival. We have some fantastic sessions on the agenda for you today, but before we jump in, I have a very exciting announcement to make. The Product Marketing Awards are back for 2022 and I'm delighted to announce that nominations are now open. We received a whopping 181 new unique nominations last year, and this year we want even more PMM pioneers to be recognised. We have 7 top-notch categories for you to get involved in, and we can't wait to shout about the incredible product marketing talent within our community. The categories are Product Marketing Leader of the Year, Product Marketing Team of the Year, Product Marketing MVP of the Year, Product Marketing Newcomer of the Year, Positioning and Messaging Maestro of the Year, Product Launch of the Year, and Top Companies to Work in Product Marketing. Nominations are now open but must close on August 19th. So what are you waiting for? Spread the word, get your nominations in and celebrate those product marketing superstars that continue to go the extra mile. We'll be sharing a link to the nomination page in the chat throughout the day, so keep a lookout for that. We're also here if you have any questions, so please feel free to reach out via Slack or email. Now, after all the excitement, I just want to say a huge thank you to our sponsors, speakers, and you, our lovely audience, for joining us today at the festival. Please make the most of these sessions by asking your questions and sharing your feedback in the comment section of the video. So with that, let's get back to the sessions.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And I'm so excited to spend the next 25 minutes talking to you about some of the learnings I've had over my career journey and hoping to give you some great takeaways as you chart your way to your dream job in PMM land. So before we get started, I just want to give you a little bit of a roadmap for what to expect for the next 25 minutes that we're going to spend together. So first, I just want to say hello and give you a little bit of an understanding of what we're going to do together in the next 25 minutes. Second, we'll talk a little bit about that dreaded buzzword that a lot of us don't like, don't understand, or don't enjoy, authentic networking. Then we'll talk about how you can make your resume so great that it stands out in applicant tracking systems, rises to the top of the pile, and really gets you noticed for the job that you want to have. And finally, we'll talk just a little bit, not exhaustively, but just the top key items you can do to prepare for your interview and really wow everybody at that final meeting and land your dream job. So let's get started by just saying hello. So I'm Rukma Sen. I'm currently a product marketer at Google, where I work on telling the stories of Chrome operating system, specifically to enterprise customers, and really helping them understand the benefits and value of our platform and how they can move towards it or think about adopting it for their companies. Previous to that, I did work at Block, which was formerly known and maybe more familiar to many of you as Square. And before that, I was at Microsoft, where I worked on cybersecurity. I'll touch a little bit more on my career journey and how I found a job at different stages in my life. But before that, I wanted to tell you a little bit about who I am as a person. So as you'll see here, I have always loved, since I was a child, dancing and dressing up, and that's a love I still have. I love going for hikes with my husband, as you'll see here on the right. This is us in Denver, Colorado, and this beautiful snow-covered lake, which is one of my favorite experiences we've had together. I love cooking, and I'm always excited to chat recipes and where foods come from and foodways. So please say hello if that's something you're interested in too and want to talk to me about. And right in the center there is my family, my parents, and my sister, whom I love more than anything except for my husband in the whole world. So that's who I am as a person. Now, as I was saying, I've had a career mostly in technology. So down below the line, you'll see some of the organizations and companies I've had the good fortune to be associated with, to work for, to even go to school at. So I went to school first for my bachelor's degree to Stanford. Then I got my business school MBA degree at the Yale School of Management. I interned at VMware, and then I got my role as product marketing manager at Microsoft, working on cybersecurity. Then I was at Block, and as I mentioned, right now I'm at Google. Over the line, though, are some of the other organizations that I was lucky enough to get offers from. So, this is all to say that I have had really great fortune and a lot of experience, a lot of preparation, doing interviews, submitting resumes, really tailoring my story to what each of these different kind of sizes and types of organizations may be looking for. And in the process, I've collected a lot of learnings and best practices. So when the PMA organizers reached out to me, I was only too happy to share in the hope that some of the things that I have learned will help you as well and benefit you on your journey to finding your dream job and really cracking that interview. So before we jump into the content, I do want to say that the views and opinions that I'm going to express are mine and mine alone. They're not the views or positions of any organization I'm currently or was formerly affiliated with. So with that out of the way, let's jump in. So what can you expect today? So what we're going to do is going to be a bit of a mix of some content and some hands-on exercises. So think of this as a toolbox for landing your dream job. We'll talk a little bit about the keys to authentic networking, how to introduce yourself, that elevator pitch, how do you reach out, how do you follow up. I'll show you some networking scripts that have worked really well for me in the past. We'll talk about how to revamp your resume and do a little exercise to try that on a very, very small scale. And then we'll talk a little bit about interviewing strategy and tips. Obviously, landing your dream job is a very large and deep topic, and it is super rich, and we could talk about it for hours. But since we don't have hours, I will try to hit on only the most important and actionable pieces of information. If you want to say hello, if you want to continue the conversation, you have any more questions, I would be so happy if you reached out to me. We'll have my details for my LinkedIn, as well as a way for you to schedule time with me at the end of this deck. So please reach out. I always want to meet new PMMs and folks who want to break into PMM. So I'd be only too happy to talk. All right, let's jump in by talking about that buzzword networking. So I think there's a few myths out there or a few issues around the term networking that I often hear when folks reach out to me when they want to think about what their dream job is, how do they go about finding out even what jobs exist, what roles exist, what industries exist. So I've heard everything on the right side here at different points in time. Networking is awkward, networking is fake, it makes me feel really selfish. It's not if you're quote unquote truly talented. It's not even really needed if you do good work. Good work just speaks for itself. Why would you need networking? I want to lay rest to these myths. Networking is none of these things. Networking is just a way to meet interesting people and form authentic connections with them. It's a way sometimes to find out about industries, jobs, or functions that you don't even know exist yet. But it's also a way to find out about some topics that excite you. It's a way to develop your community or your tribe, your group of people who will always support you and cheer you on. It can be very authentic, very relational, and be absolutely not at all transactional or fake, as the worry is. So when you think about networking, I like to think about it in sort of three different ways. So there's goal-oriented networking. So these would be like you have a goal to find out what it is like to, say, be a bookstore owner, or you want to find out how the hiring process at a certain company works, or you want to find out how many PMM rules are posted for this particular product at this particular company. So in this kind of networking, you're trying to use your network, you're trying to leverage that network to really get answers to some of these questions. The second type of networking, which I think people think about less, is just pure curiosity-based networking. So what do you want to learn about? What are some topics that are adjacent to your dream industry or your dream product? For me, some of these I've highlighted here in italics are things I'm really interested in: venture capital, social impact, even adjacent functions like UX research. I find that a really interesting team that I work with, and I want to know more about how they do what they do, how they prioritize their jobs, what are some great and not so great things maybe about the day-to-day of their jobs. So what do I want to learn about can be a really great question to think of when you think about who you want to network with. And then finally, there's community-based networking. So that is more thinking about who is my tribe? Where do I really belong? So these are, or could be, alumni groups, affinity groups, either at work or through any community organizations you're part of, or even groups like, I know there's a multi-hyphenate group in some of the organizations I'm part of, which is basically people who have various different professional interests, who do side hustles or have the 5 to 9 hustle post their 9 to 5. And it's just a place for such people to gather together, talk to each other, support each other, share information, best practices. Often you can see this last type of network or join a group like this through meetups, through existing organizations, through trying to get introductions from your friends who might be part of existing professional or affinity organizations. And this type of networking can also be just really affirming and just feel really supportive without being super goal oriented. All right, so for the next 1 minute, what I would like you to do is take out a piece of paper or open up your notes tab or wherever you would like to take some notes, and spend just 1 minute writing down very quickly 2 bullet points under each type of networking. So for goal-oriented networking, I want you to write down 2 things you want to find out. For curiosity-based networking, I want you to write down 2 things you want to learn about. And for community-based networking, I want you to write down 2 groups or tribes where you feel you belong. So I will start the timer now, and you will have 1 minute to complete this. And please just do this right off the top of your head as fast as possible. Okay, your time starts now. All right, 30 seconds. All right, and that is time. So at this point, you should have some ideas, some thought starters for each type of networking. And all right, so now that you have that list, let's talk about how do you actually reach out to those people, and what kind of follow-up you should try to have. So when it comes to outreach, what is really important is actually trying to find mutual interests or mutual connections of some type. Research suggests that all humans are more open to and more willing to help other people with whom they perceive a similarity. So that similarity could be anything from a shared school both of you attended to a shared interest group or even a shared professional organization. So it's really important to actually do some research before you reach out, and create that shared link and make that very clear. So one way to do that is through mutual contacts, obviously. So if you know someone that knows the person you want to reach out to, you should ask for introductions. One way to make this super easy for your friend who is making the introduction is to create a one sentence pitch about who you are and why you might be interesting for that person to speak with, and add that to your email. So when you send the email, you say, hey, X, I see on LinkedIn you're friends with Y. I'd really love it if you could make an introduction for the two of us. Here's a pitch you can use, and then just paste in the pitch so that it becomes very easy for your friend X to make that introduction. Another thing you can look at, like I mentioned, is doing some research on LinkedIn or social media about shared interests, hometowns, high schools, communities, colleges, volunteer organization, any shared similarity you may have with that person, and then make sure to refer to that in your email. Say, hey, Mr. Jones, I just noticed that we both went to high school X. Wasn't it great to talk about maybe your mascot, throw in a reference, and then ask for 15 minutes of their time. Be very brief and very clear in this first ask. So be very clear about the amount of time you're requesting, and also what exactly you want to speak with them about. So something like, can I speak with you for 15 minutes about the PMM role you posted on the PMA job board is very clear. If your first email goes unanswered after, say, 1 week, you can follow up again with a very brief, very clear email. And this time, try to show that you did some research, you put in some work. So I would try to see if this person has posted an article or a blog recently, podcasted, posted on LinkedIn, if anything has changed, if an interesting update has come in from their company. So this time you say, hey, X, it was great to see your article, your product launch, your podcast recently. I learned, and put in something very clear and very specific that you learned from it. Will you have 15 minutes to answer some questions I have about product marketing? And then make it very easy for people to respond. Put in a time, say, I'm free at X time. Would you be available for a 15-minute chat then? I am also, of course, happy to work around your schedule to make it clear that you're happy to accommodate them. Once you've had your first 15-minute chat, about which we'll talk on the next slide, it's very, very important to follow up. Follow-ups really help you stand out. So the day you have your informational interview or coffee chat, make sure to send a thank you, saying thank you for your time. I loved learning, and put in some specific details, what you love learning from that person about. And then 1 week later, send another follow-up email, what I call kind of the add value email. At this point, you've already met this person, you have a connection, you know what they're interested in. And so maybe you saw a blog or some content, an article, a podcast. Maybe you met someone else that had something interesting to say about some of the topics this person is interested in. So reach back out, say, hey, so great talking to you last week. I saw this article on this thing we were talking about. Just wanted to send it your way. Hope you're doing well, and I'll keep you updated on my job search or company search. If you do eventually end up wanting a referral or a job from this person, it's important to show interest in that. So say 2 months later after this chat, you realize that that company has a job posting that you really want to apply to. Reach back out, say, hi, Mr. X. It was so great chatting to you again. I just noticed that this role was posted, and based on our conversation, I think I'd be a good fit for it. Would you be open to referring me? And if you end up actually not taking a role at this person's company or organization, it's still really important to update them on your job search, on what happened, about in terms of what you talked about, and just let them know, close the loop, say, thanks so much. You added so much value. You taught me so many important things. As it happens, I ended up successfully interviewing at X company and got the role. So here are some examples uh, I've had success with. So this is an adding value example. So that's the email I told you you would send maybe 1 week after that first chat. So as you'll see here in the first line, I say, thanks so much for a lovely chat earlier this week. And then I pick up an article based on something we had been talking about and talk a little bit about some insights I grabbed from the article. And then I make the ask. I say, thanks again for offering to look at my resume, which is attached. I'd very much appreciate your thoughts on how I can better position my experience for your career in this specific field. This is super successful. This person was super helpful, really helped me revamp my resume from complete before and after transformation. Here's another example. This one is more making the ask. So if you decide that you are ready to ask for a job or ask for a referral, this is where you make the ask, or this is how I made the ask with this person at least. So I say, I bring up the event we met at, so I pull on that shared connection. I talk about who I was, because at events, people meet many people. And so you have to have a very quick, simple way to help them identify who exactly you were. And then I make a very clear pitch. So I say, as a veteran of an explosive growth startup, my professional career has been within the startup ecosystem, and I have firsthand experience doing all of these things. Knowing the unique challenges startups face, I can X and Y. Would you be available for a coffee chat or a phone chat this Friday? I'm happy to work around your schedule. This was actually the first outreach email that ended up in a series of conversations, and I ended up getting an offer at this company, which was an innovation lab that works with startups. So let's talk a little bit about pitching, since that second email was about pitching yourself. So I know pitching is a difficult and sometimes awkward task that for many of us is not intuitive. We don't like talking about our accomplishments. And so this is an exercise that I think really helps you open your mind by thinking about someone else instead of yourself. And then once you have your brain really running in those gears and you have those gears churning, you can try to translate that back to yourself, and that'll really help. So instead of yourself, think about your best friend. Open up your notes app again, pick up your pen, open your notepad, and introduce me, assuming I am the hiring manager at your best friend's dream job, to your best friend. So some things you can think about is, what makes them wake up in the morning? What is their true purpose? What is their best quality? What do you admire about them? What topics does your best friend know more about than anyone else you know? And then finally, what would make them a kick-ass product marketing manager, or whatever job title your best friend might want? But for the purposes of this exercise, you may want to think about something close to PMM. All right, so you have 1 more minute to complete this, and I will start our timer again. All right, you have 30 more seconds. Amazing. So I think what the point of this exercise is to actually get you to start thinking about how you can authentically and very genuinely talk about who you are, what makes you wake up in the morning, what makes you a kick-ass PMM, what topics do you know more about than anyone else in the world, without feeling the awkwardness and the barriers that we sometimes have when it comes to talking about ourselves. So the next step to this, after this session is over and you have a little bit more time, is to actually go through the same exercise for yourself. Imagine you're introducing yourself. Tell me about what makes you wake up in the morning. What are you so passionate about that it lights you up? What makes you just the best in the world at the job you do? And then once you have all of this content, then the next step is really editing that down into a 2-minute elevator pitch. And the key notes you should hit for that elevator pitch are: one, who are you? So that means what is your purpose or passion? Two, what are you incredibly good at? So, what topics do you know more about than anyone else? What skills are you better at than anyone else? And three, what can you do for me? So that who are you and what are you really good at combines to add what value to me as a hiring manager at your dream company. So I would recommend you think about those three things as you try to pull together your elevator pitch for all of your coffee chats and events, and networking schedule as you build that out. Okay, so now let's jump a little bit into how you can think about revamping your resume to make it really stand out. Now, these are tips and tricks that I have culled from ton of research, reading a bunch of books, watching a bunch of courses, from going to business school where they teach you this. And honestly, some of these tips and tricks have taken my resume from getting very few offers to getting interviews at almost 95% of the jobs I applied to. So let's talk about what are the key pillars for having a winning resume. The key pillars for having a winning resume in my book are customization, numbers, and context. So what does this mean? Customization means that your resume should look different for every job you apply to. This doesn't mean your previous experiences are going to change, nor does it mean you should lie or massage anything on your resume. Actually, that's a great tip. Please don't do that. Be honest on your resume. But what it means to customize is you need to go look at the job description with a fine tooth comb. So go through it, look at all of the roles and responsibilities that are listed, try to map your existing or previous experience against that job description. So if that has 5 or 6 key responsibilities listed, find which of your previous experiences are exactly the same as that, and then rewrite your resume for every job you apply to using the verbiage of the job description. A great example within product marketing for this is that what some companies call leading launch strategy, some other companies will call go-to-market strategy, and some other companies entirely will call campaign strategy. It actually probably means the same thing in all cases. You're launching a product, you're taking it to market. But what you want to make sure you do, especially for your resume to get caught or get pulled up to the pile through automated applicant tracking systems, is to use the same words as the job description. Second, numbers. So why are numbers important? You've probably heard from a lot of people you need to add numbers to contextualize your bullet points. They're important for three important reasons. I'm a product marketer. I should know how to do this better. The first one is leveling. So what level you're set at is very much dependent on the scope of the impact you've had in the past. So to really explain and communicate your scope, you need to give numbers to explain how large an event was, how many people attended it, how large a campaign was, how many paid dollars were you able to manage, how large a launch was, how much usage you got, what was the product adoption. The second piece is translation. If you're moving industries or roles or functions, numbers really help in translating some of the work you did in case the jargon or the specific keywords or the verbiage isn't exactly translatable. Numbers are a universal language. They always speak well from one context to another. And then the third thing is that numbers really highlight your achievements. They can really contextualize that, this particular launch outperformed all other launches by 3x. That's like an amazing achievement. Whereas if you told me you launched a product, well, all PMMs launch products. But this really highlights what you did. And then the third piece is context. So when you think about your resume, think about the fact that the person reading it may not always or often have the context for why the work you did was important, why was it valuable to the company. Paint a picture with your resume of all the work you did, the impact it had, not just the output, not just I launched X number of products. What was the impact? Why was it why was it specifically relevant or important to your company at that stage? Explain your value. So really try to contextualize every bullet point you have on your resume. All right. So let's get into a really quick exercise to revamp your resume. So here are the 4 steps I want you to do. First, read the job description with a pen or a highlighter in your hand. Highlight all of the roles and responsibilities. So just go down the list, look at all of the roles and responsibilities, and highlight them. List each responsibility. So the step 2 is list each responsibility, and next to it, write down which of your previous experiences can best match that responsibility. Once you're done, check your resume for any bullet points that have not yet mapped to any of the existing job description responsibilities. And if there are any bullet points left out, try to see which of the existing responsibilities it maps to. If not, that's totally fine. You don't have to parrot the job description back. This is more just about contextualizing and mapping. Step 3. Step 3 is the impact formula. The impact formula goes something like this. Had X impact by doing Y with or through or with a budget of Z. So X impact, this should be something quantifiable. So increased adoption of product by 3X, for example, by doing Y. So this is what you actually did by creating an end-to-end creating and executing an end-to-end marketing campaign across channels. With budget of or through or by working with, this shows that scope, adds that context, paints that picture. Here is where you can add the different teams you collaborated with, what kind of budget you were working with, what kind of resources perhaps you used, anything that can really paint that picture for the hiring manager is great to add in here. So that's step 3 is your impact formula. And then finally, step 4, go over every bullet point and see if it has numbers. If it doesn't have numbers, try to add any concrete detail you can. Something like we're presented to chief executives of target clients, resulting in improved customer satisfaction or desire to deploy. So that didn't have a specific number attached to it, but it did have the term chief executives. Perhaps you can quantify how many, like perhaps you spoke to or presented to 10 or 15 CXOs. That's pretty impressive. Add that in. Any number, any kind of metrics you can add can only always help. So make sure to do that. So that's your 4-step resume revamp. I hope you note that down. If not, this video recording will be available. My slides will be available. So please reach out to me and I can make sure to send those over as well. Okay, now let's jump into the final part of my short presentation, which is cracking the interview. So the top tip I can give you is really paraphrasing Scar over here from The Lion King, which is to be prepared. Prepare, prepare, prepare. There's really no such thing as over preparation for an interview. Every bit of preparation you do helps. So what I recommend you do in terms of an interview prep roadmap is first, company research, second, product research, and third, role research before going into preparing the actual questions you can expect to have. So when you think about your company research, you should want to have a strong understanding of the market or industry landscape that this company is in. What are some of the trends? Who are the competitors? What is exciting or interesting about that industry? You want to understand the company itself. So what's the financial performance been over the past couple of quarters? Who the leadership team are, what their kind of values and principles are, if those are out in the open, what the company's kind of key product innovations over the years have been, where you see their strengths and weaknesses, where you see opportunities for them moving forward in the market. And if you are trying to interview to be a product marketing manager, this piece is very important. What is their brand strategy? So what is this company's positioning? What is their messaging, mission statement? Think about some recent campaigns they run, who their target audience is. Perhaps think through some campaigns that they've done well in, some badly. One tip here, when you're researching products, a question product marketers often get is, tell me about a product that this company has, or any product sometimes that is a great product but marketed poorly, or a poor product but marketed very well. So try to keep an eye out to research that. Second, the product research piece of it. So you're a product marketer, you're interviewing to be one, so you have to have a really strong understanding of the product and the technology stack. So you really want to understand not only what the specific product you're interviewing for is, but also the whole portfolio, kind of what the product strategy is. Is it B2B? Like, is it B2C? How do you see the product innovations in comparison to their competitors, et cetera? And importantly, if you're interviewing for a consumer product, you absolutely have to be very well versed in actually using the product. So make sure you actually download the product, play with it, click in on all the buttons, understand about, what you like about it, what you dislike about it, how would you market it to different segments, etc. And then finally, the third piece is role research. So as I'm sure all of you know, PMM differs from company to company. The definition differs pretty strongly. So do some research, try to understand what exactly PMM does within this company, what is the value add that they have, what do other people come to product marketing for, and that'll just help you contextualize your answers. So in general, the types of questions you can expect at a PMM interview are behavioral questions, case questions, and sometimes take-home assignments. So take-home assignments are pretty self-explanatory. The company will give you a question or a case, and say you have 7 days to prepare a few slides and a presentation, and you have to come back and present to a panel and answer a few questions. Behavioral questions are usually identified by this very classic opening, tell me about a time you, and that's a cue for you that that's a behavioral question. And case questions are more questions about product marketing. So how would you define a new segment to target? How would you launch a new product? How would you measure the success or failure of a new campaign? That kind of thing. So with behavioral questions, it's important to use some type of structural framework, because you know your experience really, really well, but the interviewer doesn't. And what's important is that the interviewer should be able to pick out from your answer the specific thing they're looking for. So a framework I use, and that is quite common and several people have used, is called the SAR framework, or the Situation Action Results framework. So think about preparing a few behavioral questions using this framework. Now that you've had a chance to go ahead and prepare these questions or stories in that situation action results format, which you can easily find examples of if you just Google those words, it's time to actually take those stories to your interview. And I'm sure you will be super successful at finding whatever job that you think is your dream job, where you can really bring your passions and thrive. So I know we covered a lot in the last few minutes. We did everything from authentic networking to how to revamp your resume to make it stand out, to a little bit of practice and preparation on interviews, how to really have a research roadmap, what kind of questions to expect, and how to prepare for them. So thank you for staying with me on this journey and going through the exercises. If you have any questions whatsoever or want to reach out to me, please find me on LinkedIn. I'm also on the Product Marketing Alliance Slack. My name is Rupma. Just reach out to me, send me a message, say hello. And I'd love to chat about your career journey or about anything else product marketing related. Thank you again for spending some time with me today, and I hope this was helpful.